I'm familiar with Iran, but made from a historical perspective, Persia, and through education and upbringing, studying world culture and world geography, um, the Persian Empire from back in antiquity and forward.
Well, I knew that it was a Persian country. I knew quite a bit about Iran before hiring students, but no, it's a Persian country that it's a country that values education and an educated population, and that there was a certain interest in trying to advance education here in the United States.
Well, I'm originally from Turkey, and obviously I had some understanding of the Iranian culture and people before even coming to United States.
I knew only a small amount about Iran. I purchased some carpets from an Iranian doctor who's here in Ames, and they are incredibly beautiful. And I have 3 or 4 in my home. And so I knew a little bit about the Persian culture from learning about those rugs and the type of design they were. And like, for instance, one is made by a nomadic tribe, and so that was the only experience that I'd had. That's all that I knew.
I learned about Iran mainly from the news on the website or through TV. I certainly know that Iranian people are very friendly, work very hard, and very diligent people.
When I went to school at University of Illinois, I did my graduate studies there. I had very good, the Iranian friends, studying similar subjects. So I had great impression from graduate school. That's when I actually had, the friends in, the United States from Iran. But also during my undergraduate study back in Turkey, I had very close Iranian friends who were studying civil engineering and other, the areas at Dokuzeli University in Izmir, Turkey. And then I was very close friends with them, and I still stay in touch with some of them. And so I always had a good, warm, the feeling and relationships with Iranian, the colleagues and friends. So.
That's a good question. There's a famous book called The Physician in the movie. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And so I read the book, but to be honest, I read that book actually after I had my first Iranian student. And I mean, that book is eye-opening in terms of the story that is presented of the advanced culture and sophistication of science that was in Iran or Persia at the time. But yeah, I mean, like many Americans, you probably only know about Iran from what you hear about in the media. So, I mean, I wouldn't say that it was a negative opinion, but I think it was a poorly formed opinion.
The first impression I had was that, well, they were very excited and bubbly and very comfortable speaking in class and being a part of the discussions and the conversations.
Well, you mean in a human sense or a technical sense or what?
I find that they're very smart. They're good engineers. They've had good engineering training in their undergraduate and graduate programs when they've arrived here. They're very outgoing and ambitious, and they have a strong work ethic.
And they are hardworking and passionate, the people, and the easy to they work with and get along with.
I found Iranian students tend to be very smart and work, very hard, and they can be aggressive in doing research. By aggressive, I mean good things, right? They want to, shoot for good research outcomes and publish papers in high quality journals. I think these are really good for a PhD student.
Easy to work with. They get along quite well with other graduate students, undergraduate students. They've been my teaching assistants and integrate well. and so they've been quite successful.
The thing that's impressed me is their education that they get from Iran is probably better than what I think American students get in terms of their grounding and basic engineering skills. And I think their math skills are higher. I think that the educational process in Iran must be actually more, I don't know, demanding than what it is here in the United States.
What did I learn about Iran after meeting with the students? I'm not sure I could say I learned a lot.
Also, what I was really surprised about is how large the country is and how long it takes to drive from one end to the other. I had no idea of scale. So those are some of the things that I've learned, about the country per se.
I learned a little bit more about the Iranian educational system and how the system works there versus the contrast here.
I don't talk often with my Iranian student about the culture, but I do know that you guys have a new year coming, right? And which is very special for you. That's why you are organizing this interview with me and other faculty. So, but I don't know much about the culture thing. Maybe I'm talking too much with my student about work.
I'm not sure I was able to get in touch with the social conversations with them as much as I really want to. And then we mostly focus, our meetings on discussing, the technical subjects and all that. But once in a while, we do talk about, I ask them, how their families are doing back at home, or if some political issues come up, what happened, the last year. So I try to, they have conversations with them, and also to understand if they are having any specific challenges of living in the United States as an international student or scholar.
You have wonderful skiing. Things that it never would have crossed my mind. I didn't even know you had mountains, to be honest, until I started talking to somebody about what your geology looks like. I didn't know that wine, was developed in Iran, and that when I have a bottle of, what's the famous wine? Syrah.
My city.
Is it? I was blown away. I just couldn't, I didn't even seem, I assumed it came from France or something. In architecture in Tehran, you have spectacular bridges that have been there for several hundred years, right? And they're still there, still functional. You're again, in medicine, you were world famous. You're probably the premier medical country in the entire world back in the 1500s. So I've learned a lot about Iran that I previously just had no knowledge of, because in our schooling we don't learn anything about countries in your area.
I wouldn't say that there's a huge difference between Iranian students and other international students. We hire and recruit for our graduate programs very high quality students from around the world. But I guess if I had to identify one thing that may make Iranian students a bit different than others, is that they're very outgoing, very personable, very interested in striking up a conversation and talking with me about different topics, not just engineering, but broader topics as well.
You're very worldly. You've traveled far more than the vast majority of students that you will ever meet. Do you think that's correct?
I think they are eager to learn, and always trying to produce, impressive research results. I think their, self-motivation is very strong. So I think even stronger than, many other students, in my opinion.
I would say results oriented. So they focus in on the different steps to achieve success, and not only in their coursework but in their career development.
Nowrooz? No, I have not.
I don't. I know, except for your email.
No, I've not heard about Nowrooz.
No.
Yes, I have, and it's actually being celebrated in Turkey as well. In Turkish, we call it Nowrooz, and I actually like it very much. And again, when I was in undergraduate, my close friend Cemşit, he will always invite me to their special Nowruz celebrations. I remember he will have a pot planting, what was he planting? Jesus.
Lentil?
Lentil, yep, lentils, and then it was a beautiful green, they say the springs, coming out of in the pot and everything. So, and then they will have very delicious, obviously, Iranian dishes, and I really enjoyed it. And then they will have tea and there's some other things, and also obviously singing and cultural events and music. And I really very much enjoyed it, and I love the meaning of it, especially living here in Ames, Iowa, under harsh winters and welcoming spring. What else could I be out there to celebrate? Than welcoming a warm welcome of the spring. So I love it.
How do you say Happy New Year in Persian?
Nowruz Mubarak.
Yeah, let me try it
Yeah,
very
it's a
hard.
bit.
Nowruz Mubarak.
Nowruz Mubarak.
Ada Shoma Mubarak.
Okay. Saleh no Mubarak.
So I've been practicing. Nowruzatan Peruzi.